What's up, everybody? Welcome on into the Slate Thursday Sports Edition here on the DraftKings programming. Adam Kaufman here with you. Gary and Thorne, we're going to be joined in just a little while by Jeff Ulrich. He is fixated on all things U.S. Open and round one, what has been a record-setting, exhilarating first-round action, as a matter of fact. And Moose will join us. We'll talk about that in, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Whenever the Canadian man finds his way into this channel, we will drop everything and talk all things golf. In the meantime, a fellow Canadian, opposite side of the country, will join us here, Gary, and to talk baseball. There's obviously, we're well underway with the day. You had the Orioles earlier winning their game, thankfully, because I had them as part of a money line parlay. And right now, I'm upset. I'm upset for anyone that was with me in taking the Rays first five. They could have just, given up a little bit. Not all of it. 3-0 lead going into the bottom of the fifth inning, and the resilient, America's favorite and future residents of Las Vegas, the Oakland A's, came up with 3 runs to tie it going into the sixth. So if you took the Rays on the run line in the first 5, if you took the Rays on the money line in the first 5, you've lost. Like me, I feel like a loser.
I mean, I would have just stayed away from that series. Maybe it's just been so weird. Even the game they lost, game 3, they had the bases loaded against the Rays in the 6th inning, 1 out, had an opportunity to break that game open even, and led Mistia's grounds into a double play. But it's been a strangely competitive series between two teams that were polar opposites of each other on Monday.
It's not even just that. I mean, I realize this has been the best competition Oakland has seen since this run of success over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So clearly, I mean, nobody expected it. You look at the betting numbers on the DraftKings Sportsbook, and even still, despite what has gone on in the series going into today, heavy percentage of the bet, not only just placed on the money line where there was really no value, but on the run line where you could get some value, it was still, the Rays are going to bounce back. They're going to win today by multiple runs. And look, maybe they will. It's only in the 6th inning right now and the game is tied. So maybe bettors will be rewarded if you put your faith into the Rays run line, which once again, I did that. So we'll see. It was looking good for a little while, but I do wonder at this point in time, sort of the evolution for the Oakland A's, right? Like, it's not a good baseball team. It's not a talented baseball team. We know all of that, Garion. But before it was like you have to target the A's and you got to target the A's on the run line. Whoever they're playing, doesn't matter. It's going to cash for you. And that's sort of over the course of the winning streak and run of success was, okay, maybe we avoid this team altogether because they're messing things up. At what point in time, especially if the A's do win this game, do you say, do we bet Oakland?
No, never. They're bad. They're a bad baseball team. This is baseball. It's 162 games. The worst team is still going to win 50 times. These wins have just happened to come consecutively, and they've been a little weird. No, Oakland's terrible. I mean, every pitcher they have started in a game this series had an ERA in the 6s or 7s. They opened a game. The theory of opening is you want a really good pitcher to face the top of a team's order. So then you bring in the worst pitcher and he gets to last like 4 or 5 innings and doesn't have to face the top of that order more than twice, even in the best possible scenario. They chose an opener who had an ERA of 11. Like, they're bad. They're terrible. They just happened to string some wins together this week. It's been a really nice story. Don't get me wrong, but really, the reason for not betting against Oakland every single night is just there's very rarely any place to find value when voting against betting against the Athletics. In general, I know I have a specialty prop that I took at the start of this season that was the Athletics to win less than 50 games this season.
Are you getting nervous about that?
Not great for that, but guess what? Still pretty much on pace to not do that. I'm not sweating yet.
So as we think, and this is relevant to today, but just bigger picture in general, if the A's are the team now, and maybe in your mind, they're still the team that you always target against, and you target the run line against, if you're a run line person. I know some people just don't like to play the run line because of, the variance to win by multiple runs, but obviously I'm drawn to it. I'm drawn to the number more often than not. And I've certainly been bitten by it my fair share, but who is that other team that is maybe temporarily or indefinitely replacing Oakland as the one we just have to go against? Like, you look at the Royals, for instance.
I'm going to cut you off.
Yeah.
You're asking generalities. Again, baseball is the most day-to-day betting sport there is. There are no overarching trends that are like, oh, you have to bet against this team. It's just a team you no. It's pitching matchups. It's handedness matchups. It's injury reports. Like there is no answer to your question.
Even if the team is just collectively terrible.
Sorry?
Even if a team is just collectively terrible,
No.
I know the A's are doing what they're doing, but you look at the Tigers, you look at the Royals, for instance.
How many times do you want me to answer this question? No.
What can I say? I'm looking for a trend where I guess there isn't a trend.
This isn't basketball. Like, again, there are going to be high variance events in baseball. That's just what happens. It is a slog of a season. It is a game of failure. Like, again, it is just set up in situations where, generally speaking, again, like you said, there was no value on Rays money line today. So you get into a situation where even if you want to take them on the run line, you're doing so at like minus 130, minus 135. It's not how you bet baseball. Like Matt LaMarca, his go-to quote about how you bet baseball and be profitable: find underdogs on the money line that you like, take a chance, because more often than not, if you can find an underdog in an appealing spot, just in the sheer variance of baseball, it'll come through. Like that those are the bets you want to make. You don't want to be taking minus 140 favorites on the run line. That's just not a way to be profitable betting baseball.
All right, so that in mind, because we have plenty of baseball ahead of us tonight, not just the games that are in action right now, where are you looking? Where are your favorite spots in this day-to-day trend-free game?
I'm going to go with the under in Colorado, Atlanta. I think this is a really interesting spot. You can see there is money coming in on the under. It's at minus 115 versus minus 105 to the over. It's just two teams that are on entirely different ends of the spectrum. And I think 9.5 is one of those totals where I need to have at least a little bit of faith in both of these lineups to be able to take an over in that situation. The Braves are the hottest team in baseball. They have a 131 WRC plus in June. The Braves have the best weighted on base percentage of any team against left-handed pitching. They face a lefty tonight in Kyle Freeland. So Atlanta is probably going to score some runs tonight, but Colorado is going to have to do something. And I just don't trust the Rockies to do anything at this point. One, they're very beat up. They are arguably missing their three best offensive players. CJ Cron has been out for over a month. Chris Bryant is on the IL, and obviously Charlie Blackmon just broke a bone. Never good. We don't know if we're going to see him again this season. This is a lineup that was already very bad, and it's now arguably the worst in baseball. And, you know, these stats have existed for a decade now, but pick your Rockies on the road stat. They have the worst isolated power and the worst WOBA of any National League team on the road this season. They are actually 38, 18, and 1 to the under their last 57 road games. Obviously, that goes back into last season as well, but 9.5, like 10 runs is a substantial amount of runs. And yes, the Braves are great, but I just don't see Colorado scoring more than 1 or 2 runs, maybe. And AJ Smith-Schaefer, it's only been 2 appearances, granted, but someone who is pitching exceedingly well in the minors for the Braves this season has yet to allow an earned run at the major league level. That might change tonight, but I don't think he's getting beat up. I just don't trust this Rockies team at all. I don't trust them to carry their weight. And I think this goes under, despite the fact the Braves are arguably, if you're looking at this game from a DFS perspective, the most obvious stacking situation on the board we have tonight.
Could I tempt you into the Braves team total over 5.5, or is that too steep?
I mean, 5.5, I'll just say it's not a number I generally attack. I don't like taking team totals that are over 4.5 runs. That's sort of my magic number, especially when the team total is over 5.5 minus 115. There's just not a lot of appeal there. Again, if you are just terrified that the Braves are going to be that good and score that many runs, it's not a terrible bet. But for me, the angle here that I prefer is that the Rockies are just putrid. I mean, you could maybe entice me with a Rockies team total under bet. What are they, 3.5?
Sitting at 3.5. Yep.
Yeah. So I would say the under there is probably a route I would rather explore than the Braves over, just because, again, I like that number a little bit more than I like 5.5. 5.5 is just a really big total for a game not taking place at Coors Field.
All right, so you like under 9.5 in this Braves Rockies game, number that right now I'm looking at VSiN's, the DraftKings Sportsbook numbers, has 83% of the handle on the over, but the under is being bet up. You know, you can see the arrow up. The under is being bet up right now. As far as percentage of bet, you know, however much you care about what the public is up to, maybe you don't at all. But the largest number, 75% on the over between Pittsburgh and the Chicago Cubs. It's a low total. It's just 7 runs in that game. It's a 50-50 split in terms of the handle, but 75% of the bet going on the over in that game. What do you think? You riding that?
I don't hate it. I think if you do want to attack that spot, as opposed to taking just the over in that game, there might be a little bit of appeal. I know there's a daily specials prop on the DraftKings Sportsbook where you can bet what you think the highest scoring game on this slate is going to be. I believe that is plus 850, plus 900 to be that game. Again, Marcus Stroman's been fantastic so far this season, so you are sort of having to anticipate him having arguably his worst start of the season or a blow-up start. And, you know, he's been a more strikeout-heavy pitcher this season, so less inclined to have those huge, massive, just crooked number games that sometimes he had in the past. But the Cubs lineup has been really good this series. They scored a lot of runs off of Pirates pitching. Johan Oviedo, someone I like. He passes the eye test every time I watch him, but the numbers just do not say that he has been a good pitcher so far this season. The Cubs also getting Cody Bellinger back tonight off the injured list. He'll be playing in his first game in exactly a calendar month. Went on the IL back on May 15th with a knee injury. So that lineup is kind of at 100% right now. The Pirates do have some dangerous bats. You've got Brian Reynolds in the middle of that lineup. You've got Jack Sawinski, hit a couple home runs in the first game of this series. So maybe if you want to take a longer shot bet, and you do think this game is going to hit the over, maybe put a sprinkle on the plus 900 for it to be the highest scoring game on this slate, because there are some really good pitchers taking them out tonight.
Knowing there is plenty of variance in baseball, it's not crazy for a team to disappoint you, a bullpen to ruin a great opportunity, whatever it may be. We can agree there's really little to no value in, let's say, the Minnesota money line, the Houston money line. Could I entice you into a money line parlay with the two of those teams? They are heavy favorites, obviously, to where you get basically even money plus slightly plus money on those two teams, right around, I think, maybe plus 125-ish. I'd have to double check to just money line those two teams to win.
I mean, they're favored for the reason. I won't dispute that. The Twins, as part of a parlay, the Twins even as a minus 200 favorite. I know the Tigers have been terrible in the month of June. Their offense started to get back on track against the Braves. They were at least able to put up some runs. They gave Spencer Strider a lot of issues earlier this week in that doubleheader. Look, Sonny Gray's been fantastic. Christian Javier, you probably won't find a bigger Christian Javier fan than me. I think the guy's fantastic. They should win these games. But Minnesota's offense in particular. Now, they did get Byron Buxton back today off the IL, but he looked awful the prior 3.5 weeks before even going on the IL. I don't know if that was just him battling injury that entire time, and maybe he's back to 100%, but the Twins cannot score runs. And if you're going to put them in a parlay as a minus 200 favorite, I just worry about a team that's as putrid offensively as they are. But again, they should win this game. I will, though, say Matthew Boyd for all the reasons I just listed, and the fact that Minnesota, highest strikeout rate of any team in the month of June. Boyd is like a value play tonight. I think he's $5,800 on DraftKings. Pretty enticing punt play if you want to go that direction. Because, again, the Twins, their pitching has not been the problem this season. It has been their bats.
So I was looking at some, plus EV plays tonight, at least according to some projections. Depends where you look, obviously. There's opportunity all over the place. One that is very much at the top of the board, as we kind of dovetail into props a little bit, is Logan Allen for the Cleveland Guardians at over 4.5 strikeouts. How do you feel about that?
It's fine. I did stare at that number myself this morning. I think it's bettable. Is it my favorite bet on the board? No. The Padres in the last 2 weeks only have a 20.9% strikeout rate. It's one of the lowest marks in all of baseball. Some of the more strikeout prone bats that might have been in that lineup. I mean, Jake Cronenworth, not great against left-handed pitching. He's sitting tonight. For as good as Gary Sanchez has been and for as many home runs as he has hit as a member of the Padres, he is obviously another guy who is very susceptible to strikeouts, career rate hovering around 30%. He is not in the lineup tonight. It's fine. I think Logan Allen has proven himself to be a good enough pitcher where he can pitch 6 innings. And if that happens, he can certainly rack up enough strikeouts. I guess my only thing I'll warn with Logan Allen is when you start looking at his like season-long strikeout rate, he had one really good game a couple weeks ago. I think he had 10 strikeouts in a single game. And that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to his season-long ratios. So I don't think he's an elite strikeout pitcher. I would say he's league average. Should a league average pitcher get 5 strikeouts if they can throw 6 innings? Yes. So good bet. I think it's -110. I don't know if it's moved, but not my favorite prop on this slate, but definitely one that I'd be okay to explore.
Well, what are some of your favorite props on the slate?
So my favorite pitching prop and long odds. So you're taking a bit of a risk with this one, but I like the number. I like the juice. Dylan Cease to go over 2.5 walks is +145. Little background information on our friend Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease has an 11.3% walk rate in his last 13 starts. Among all active starters who have thrown at least 500 innings in their career, Cease's 10.6% walk rate is the highest mark in that group of pitchers. This is a man who is not economical with his pitches. He walks a lot of guys. Now, having said that, he's still only gone over this prop in 5 of those 13 starts. Like, this isn't something that happens all the time. But I think the Dodgers are sort of a perfect storm scenario for someone like Cease. The Dodgers, in the last 7-8 years, this sort of renaissance they've had under Dave Roberts, they have always been a team that draws walks. They have a 10.8% walk rate. They are one of just 2 teams in baseball with a walk rate above 10% so far this season. They have the lowest chase rate in all of baseball, down at 27.6%. You could argue they have the hitter with the best eye in baseball leading off their lineup. Mookie Betts has the lowest individual chase rate of any player in baseball this season at 19.1%. It's just their organizational philosophy. It's a lot like what the Red Sox were doing back in the Kevin Youkilis days. This is just a team that sees a lot of pitches. And even because of that, I believe Cease for outs recorded tonight, I think his number is sitting at 15.5.
16.5 now.
16.5. I think the under is not the most appealing bet in the world. It's -150. So there's no way in hell he's getting to 17 outs recorded in this game. Like, the Dodgers are just way too patient and way too good a lineup. Cease might throw 85 pitches to get through 4 innings. Like, that's kind of the way this is trending tonight for me. And I just think if there's a team designed to get the worst out of Dylan Cease in terms of walks, it is the Dodgers, even if Max Muncy doesn't play, and it seems like he's not going to.
Where else are you looking tonight on the DK Sportsbook?
I'm intrigued a little bit because, again, this isn't the biggest slate. There isn't like one of those plays that really jumps out at me in terms of money line, just something simple. Aside from, I think we were both on the Orioles this afternoon.
Correct.
So we can pat ourselves in the back. Just in terms of simplicity, I think the Rangers, they're -120 on the money line tonight. I think a lot of that price is just sort of, we talk about like public teams. Shohei Ohtani is a very public player. People like betting on Shohei Ohtani to do well, and they should. He's fantastic. But in the last 6 weeks, he's been a lot better as a hitter than he has been as a pitcher. Showed a little fatigue in his last start. He actually threw more fastballs below 95 miles an hour in his last start than I think he had in his prior 7 starts combined. Like, it just seems like his arm is not quite where it needs to be right now. a little rocky. ERA up over 4 the last 6 weeks. And he's going up against Nate Eovaldi, who has been arguably the best pitcher in the American League this season. So I just think this is not nearly enough. The Rangers should be like minus 150. They're the better team. They're at home. They've got their ace on the mound. Their offense is the best in baseball. I just can't wrap my head around why this number is minus 120, aside from the fact that it's just Shohei Ohtani's pitching for the Angels, and people like betting Shohei Ohtani.
That in mind, what you were just talking about, would you go under on his strikeout prop, or do you feel like the numbers will still be there?
It's 6.5.
Thought I saw it at 7.5, but I will double check.
7.5, I would definitely go under. I think I saw it at 6.5 this morning.
Let me see.
Even still,
7.5.
7. Yeah, I would take the under. I mean, again, the under is minus
150. Yeah,
not a lot of fun taking that. But
right.
Do I think he's going to hit that? No. Like I wouldn't be like, ooh, plus 110, 8 strikeouts for Shohei Ohtani. Like that's not something I'd want to chase.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. Very good. I was going to ask you more baseball questions, but I don't want Moose to get shortchanged on time. Jeff Ulrich is here, and we are going to do some golf as well. Gary, are you going to stick around for the golf talk, or are you taking off?
I'll be taking off, but very excited to hear Jeff's thoughts on the easiest U.S. Open course in history.
Well, for today it is. Well, I think it's going to get ratcheted up as the week goes on. But
for today, maybe even just for the morning, we will find out.
The minions at the USGA are not excited this morning. That's not what they wanted. Probably 8 under. Course records being set. No.
All right, we'll dive into that. But Gary, thank you so much for your baseball expertise. I wish you a happy betting day. I hope the Rays pull it out today. Still tied at 3 with the A's, and I look forward to hearing about more trends from you in this game of baseball. We'll talk to you, buddy. All right, Moose. So yeah, weird day at the U.S. Open, obviously. So at the moment, you are well aware of this, but for anyone that is not, Ricky Fowler, who fortunately I had a first-round leader ticket on, and Xander Schauffele, unfortunately for chopping me, but these two guys are tied at 8 under, both in the clubhouse at the end of round 1. The next closest is a flurry of guys who are 3 back. Now, that being said, this is going on out west, obviously in the Los Angeles area, and so you've got a number of guys that are still on the course right now. So will anyone this afternoon, in your mind, even come close to threatening what we saw, from both Ricky and Xander?
I mean, I think that you could get, like there's really, it's the U.S. Open. Rory's already at 2 under. I think you could get guys threatening it, but you have to remember, I mean, the course is baking out. These greens are going to get faster as the week goes on. And even in the afternoon, I'd be pretty surprised if someone got to 8 under in the afternoon. Yeah, so I think you'll see a couple more low scores because the course is playing easier and there's lots of scoring opportunities. But I'd be pretty surprised if anybody else got to 8 under. And certainly for you, pal, I mean, you should be counting your blessings. Xander had a putt for -9 on his last hole, so you should just be happy to be here. But
believe me, I know. I was following along.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's all first round leader sweats are always the fun. I'm actually sweating some top 5s with Bryson and Siwoo. So I don't know if those are going to hold up. I might get dead heated down to almost nothing, but regardless, weird start in a lot of ways. I mean, there's Gary had mentioned like, the easiest course in history, but there's only 2 people who went lower than 3 under. Like everybody else in the field was 3 under or worse in the morning. So it's just a very, and I mentioned this before in the previews and stuff. It's a very variable course where you're going to see some guys blow up, but there's also going to be opportunities to go low. I just didn't think it would be this extreme where guys were coming out and shooting 62. I don't think 62s are going to be available for the rest of the week. So keep that in mind, but there's certainly going to be low scores available, like a 65 or 64. So just keep that in mind. I think the scoring will ratchet up and get tighter as we go on.
Yeah, I mean, even you can go 1 under and still shoot a 69. Like I don't know. I go. This is me like more of a you the golf expert, me more of a golf novice. I go into it thinking like, all right, can a guy shoot sub 70 in a round? Like that's a pretty good round. And then you obviously look at what we've got here, and that's just a 1 under, and you're nowhere close to the lead.
It's bizarre though. Yeah, because you take the top 2 players off, and it would just look like a regular U.S. Open leaderboard. Like Correct. The leaders at 3 under. You're like, okay, the course is playing tough. I mean, there's barely anyone under par. But then those two guys are out there, and it's just like these two huge outlier rounds. So it's really weird, but I think it is kind of just, a course feature where there's going to be low rounds available all week. There's going to be a lot of movement on the leaderboard all week.
So with that advantage, I know obviously there's no real value in it, but you look at Ricky Fowler. I'm looking at the DraftKings Sportsbook at plus 600 outright winner as compared to Xander Schauffele, who's plus 300. So obviously you got more value on Ricky. Ricky was a guy that a lot of people were on coming into this tournament as someone that was expected to, play pretty well. Believe me, that has to be true if someone like me had a first round leader ticket on him. So what's a smart bet to make right now based on what we've seen so far going into round 2 and into the weekend?
So, I mean, look, Scotty Scheffler's in the mix. He's playing well. Rory's on the course. He might be playing well too. If you're going to take a shot, you should be thinking low investment, high odds right now. Guys who potentially started okay, but are further back. Guys who you could potentially think, oh, like this guy could maybe show up and shoot like 64 tomorrow and get himself in it. John Rahm is a name that maybe comes to mind. You might want to take a look at Hovland, guys who are further back and still available at really good odds. But going to the top of the leaderboard here would be, not suicide. Like, I actually think the one guy who's kind of interesting at the top is Scotty Scheffler. Scotty Scheffler went off around plus 600, plus 650.
Yeah.
He's at 300 par and he's at plus 550. Like, I actually really don't have a problem taking that number at all. I may even think about doing that at some point here because we're getting almost the same number he went off at pre-events. And we've got, again, you take out 2 players, he had the best round of the day. So Scheffler, or the best round of the morning anyways, I don't know what the afternoons guys are going to do, but Ricky's never won a major. Xander's never won a major. These guys, certainly they've put themselves in great positions, but Scheffler played well today. It's just something to think about. So yeah, for the outright market, I'd be, again, low, like I said, big odds, low investment. That's got to be your goal. I think that the better investment for this kind of course too is thinking about top 10 odds, guys who are a little bit further back, just outside it. And maybe like trying to target some people there, but I wouldn't be doing that right now. I'd probably be waiting to see probably how this round ended and then take it, but I think as the week goes on, like those opportunities will arise. So we're early, no need to get too crazy right now. And certainly unless you really want to just pound down Scheffler and you didn't get too much action, pre-event, that I would just, not be hopping in here willy nilly.
I'm curious who has, for one, for better or for worse, sort of surprised you the most through this first round, removing the top 2 guys, obviously. Anybody else, like one that jumps out at me is, and granted, nowhere close to the end of round 1, but through 6, Phil's 2 under. Yep. And, just like I was looking at all sorts of tourney specials and opportunities, obviously, going into this event, and it was all right. Like, how do I feel about when I'm looking at like make, miss, cut? Phil Mickelson had, as I recall, maybe I'm wrong about this, but had one of the worst odds as far as making the cut. And yet here he is, he's again early, but T7 is what he's doing so far surprising or impressing you?
So part of the unknown with the US Open is just not knowing how the course is going to play because it's always a different course. And I think this course really is going to play into a guy like Phil Mickelson's hands. He's aggressive off the tee, but these fairways are so wide open. That's part of the reason why I like Cam Smith, another aggressive player who just off the tee, he's not going to get in as much trouble here as a regular US Open venue. And I think it's going to help Phil, who's played well in spots. I think in a way it sets up a little bit like Augusta, where Phil always plays well. Just big, lots of room off the tee. You can be a little bit creative if you're good to the short game. In that regards, you can have some success here. So, again, if the course is going to play like that, yeah, I think Phil could have a good week. He's certainly put himself in position there at the start to do it. It's 6 holes in, but you make a good point. Like right now, he's popping, and I actually think with the way the course played, especially this morning, like that, it kind of makes sense to see him playing a little bit better. So, and then on the flip side of that, the guy I was definitely, there's a couple guys. Justin Rose and Adam Scott were 2 people who were really popular this week. I really like the betting odds on Adam Scott. And I'm not little bit of buyer's remorse, but I mean, like, what are you going to do? He did get it back to +3 at the end of the round, but slower start than usual. But Justin Rose is definitely the guy who's blowing up a lot of DFS lineups this week. I'm not sure if he was the most popular play in like the Millie Maker, but he was projected to be like a top 3 play. I'm not sure what he came in at in terms of ownership percentages. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's certainly up there. So Rose is definitely probably the biggest disappointment this week, and we'll see what Scott can do tomorrow. I'm still pretty confident that Scott's going to have a chance to get the cut because he's only up +3, but it certainly wasn't a good opening round for Adam Scott or Patrick Reed. That's another guy who kind of slouched today too.
Only a couple minutes left. I will credit our guy Jason Sobel from Action Network, who of course is part of the Sweat, oftentimes DraftKings programming earlier in the day. One that he was really high on was Ryan Fox top 10, 2 under for his round one. He is one of those T7 guys.
Yeah, Ryan Fox is a sneaky good player. I liked him for DFS purposes too. I talked about him with Sobel a little bit, but he's a big driver of the golf ball. He's a really good putter. And again, I just think the slightly easier venue, I mean, it's just not going to put as much pressure on a guy like Ryan Fox who can really score. So, Ryan Fox is a guy to look to on the weekend too, like for showdown lineups, maybe round bets. He's a guy who could put together a 64 on this course. I really do think that. So someone I'm going to keep my eye on, maybe like an in-play top 10 bet on Ryan Fox, who actually, I know I gave him a glance. He's set +500 for a top 10.
+500, yeah.
I really don't hate that at all. I mean, it's pretty much it may even be better than his pre-event odds. I can't remember. So,
very good. I just want to see if there was anything else here before we wrap up this show and do let you go. How much are these two guys? And I know we don't know because tomorrow has to play itself out. But how much do you think these top two guys with the 5-shot lead that they have at the moment anyway through round one, how much is this going to screw up the cut line tomorrow?
No, it shouldn't screw up the cut line too much. The cut is top 60 in ties, so it's really just what the bottom of like the rest of the field does, like in terms of like the guys around +1 and stuff. Yeah. But I think what it does is it's going to create a little bit of mentality of the guys chasing that they got to go out and get it. So I think the biggest thing this has done is you may see a few more blowups from guys because people are going to start getting aggressive early. Like if you're at -1, like, well, I got to go here. This is easier conditions. There's 2 guys at -8. And I think you'll see some people go low, but I also think you'll see some people just blow up because of that. So I just think this is going to be a lot of movement on the leaderboard, both ways. Like guys who look good today could just blow up tomorrow, including Ricky or Xander. And then guys who like I said, Adam Scott, maybe Patrick Reed. I wouldn't be shocked if a couple of those guys came back and shot like 65 tomorrow. So a lot of movement on this course. I think is going to be real variable. There's bogeys and doubles out there, but there's a lot of birdie chances too.
3 Madden simulations coming your way over the course of the Dream Stream night, if you will. I know you missed those. The virtual Saints
at the
virtual Buccaneers coming up at 6 o'clock Eastern. Just about 5 minutes from now, you will have the Seahawks Eagles after that at 8 and at 10. Madden After Dark, you once knew it as. The Jaguars and Falcons, Jeff's Falcons. He'll be, Jeff will be sitting there blowing into paper towel rolls trying to make moose sounds. It'll be a real throwback. Thanks so much to Cody, our technical director, Eamon, our producer, Gary and Thorne, who joined us earlier, Jeff Ulrich, who's going to go back to watching golf now, the afternoon out in the greater Los Angeles area. I'm Adam Kaufman, The Sweat, tomorrow morning. I'll be there with you for that. I bet Moose will be too. We'll see you later.